Good morning, everybody. Welcome on in. Got a great show for y'all today. Should be a little bit different than normal, but very informative. So, it'll be the first of two shows I do today. We're going to do this one, and then I'm going to transition. I'm going to hop off and then create a second stream, which will be we'll continue our little Pokemon journey, and we'll talk about we're now into the second month of the year. So I'm going to take a look at my yearly goals and say, all right, we're a 12th of the way through the year. That would be akin to being 5 minutes into the first quarter if this were a football game. Am I up 7-0? Am I up 14-0? Am I up 7-3? Am I down? Where are we looking at? So that's the next stream. But this stream, if the title didn't make it clear, is about the costs of importing a K-van. So, what is a K-van? Well, a K-van, and you can look up exactly what it looks like, is spelled K-E-I. K-E-I, or Kei, is a class of vehicle in Japan where there are strict dimensions as to how large the vehicle can be. Relative to most American cars, it's very small, and very strict regulations on how large the engine displacement can be. That is, it can be no more than, I believe it's 660 cubic centimeters, or about 2/3 of a liter. So a very small engine. Even the smallest engines in subcompacts here are usually at least 1 liter or 1000 cc. So that's a K-van. The K-van I have chosen, I'm going to go ahead and pull up a picture here. Is a 1994 Subaru Sambar Dias K-van. I'm going to go ahead and pop that up. To give you an example, this right here is largely similar to what my vehicle looks like. It's not the exact same, but it's pretty similar. So if you're wondering what a K-van looks like, here you go. That's roughly about it. Okay? This, for instance, mine is from the year 1994. And why does that matter? Well, there are rules to what you can and cannot import. So let's start there. First off, if you are trying to import a vehicle that was not originally sold in the United States market to the United States market, it must be 25 years old or older. In other words, the manufacture date as of today can be no more recent than February 1st, 2000. Okay, so that's the first important thing to know about K-vans. The second thing to know about K-vans is that, in general, you're going to have to pay multiple costs. Thanks to the cost of the yen being very low right now. Let's, while we're here, we're going to go ahead and do yen to USD. Right now, $1 is equal to roughly, we're going to go 155 yen. Typically, the Japanese yen is floated historically closer to the 100 to 1 mark. In other words, 1 yen equals about a penny. Now it's 150 to 1. In other words, if you're looking to import a car from Japan especially, now is a very good time to do it. Relative to a lot of other currencies, the US dollar, despite our insane amounts of deficit spending, has remained strong. This is partially because while we overindulged in the post-coronavirus world, so did every other economy. The difference is that for a variety of reasons, we are more insulated to price shocks than a lot of other economies. For instance, if oil prices go really, really high, like they did in 2022, a country like Japan is screwed. They have to import that oil, and that is going to devalue their currency, right? On the contrary, the United States produces a lot of oil. We consume all of it, but we can still, if oil prices go up, we can continue to produce to satisfy our own demands, more or less. Obviously, it's more complicated than that, but bear with me. Okay, so that's what we're importing. The question is, what would it cost? And why would you want to bother with importing it? Because that's going to take a lot of time and effort and energy. Well, here in Hawaii, you can get a K-van from local dealers between about $10,000 and $12,000 on average. They're usually in pretty good shape because that's what gets imported. They import in bulk. Their business is doing that. So basically, instead of paying a premium to a dealer here in Honolulu or anywhere else in Hawaii, you're doing all that. You're doing the legwork yourself. So the question is, how much per hour are you getting paid to do that? So we're going to break that down. Using my car as an example, first thing we had to do was pay a deposit. So there are a lot of different ways to find the K-van you're looking for. The best way to do it is an auction, and the best way to find someone to handle that auction for you is to use a company or a person you know and trust. I found one who was recommended to me by a couple coworkers who have imported not just K-vans, but also things like Toyota Supras, Nissan Skylines, a lot of those really fabulous early 90s Japanese cars, Land Cruisers, Prados, Nissan Patrols, a lot of those really fabulous Japanese cars from around 1990 to 2000 that were, I mean, just better than anything else on the market. The 1990s has some of the best cars ever made, and almost all of those cars were Japanese. The Japanese auto companies just absolutely dominated the 1990s. And it's not just Toyota. Obviously, right, Honda, some terrific automobiles. I have sung the praises of the EH, that is 1992 to 1996 Honda Civic VX trim in particular, as perhaps the finest automobile to grace American shores. Absolutely stellar vehicle. It got 55 miles per gallon with no hybrid system and no turbocharging or any other tricks. Just simply incredible. The engineering behind those small early 90s Civics was spectacular. And I wish a time would come that we got rid of a lot of the current safety regulations such that we could build small, light, efficient cars like that again. But I can dream on about that. That's another rant. So the first thing, you put down a deposit for an auction. Then you wait. You wait for a good car to come up. This whole process, by the way, will take you a couple months. Okay, so if you need a car now, importing it probably not going to work. But if you live in a place like here, you don't need a car at all. This car is entirely a luxury item for me. I want to make that very clear because I am not a huge fan of cars in general, or at least using cars as your choice of commute. For commuting, you should be able to ride a bike, use public transit, or walk to work. It is worth, in almost every circumstance, it is worth it to make a commute car-free if you can. The only... Shut up. Shut up, Instagram. Fuck off. No, I'm fucking live right now. Hi. Sorry about that, y'all. My modeling director is calling me on Instagram. I'm gonna tell him I'm busy. Stop calling me. God damn it. There we go. Anyway, sorry about that. Where I was going with this, so you start with an auction, okay? The auction is, it's gonna take time. You will get cars based on a 1 to 5 rating scale. I'm going to New York on Monday. I'm gonna talk to the modeling director as soon as I get off here. But generally speaking, the 1s and 2s you stay away from. Anything that's not rated, you stay away from. The Japanese have a lot of government incentives to buy new K cars because it supports their industries. And Japan has an extremely loyal customer base. In other words, even if there weren't tariffs or other protective measures from Japan, most Japanese customers will buy Japanese. It's just how they feel about it. And frankly, after the 1990s, I can't really blame them for doing that because there was no car company from any other country making vehicles as good as Japan was in the 1990s. Anyway, so the next thing you do is you wait for a car to come up to auction and you get someone to check it out. Generally speaking, this involves an inspection, which is worth the money. And sometimes you may come back with the inspection that's like, oh, don't do this one. My car, he said, there's a small engine oil leak. Otherwise, mechanically, it's pretty sound. It's a little bit rough on the interior, but it's not too bad. So I'm like, okay, I'm not a huge fan of the fact that it was a CVT instead of a manual transmission, especially with these K cars, right? They don't have a lot of power. A manual transmission allows you to get a lot more out of the engine, and it's more fuel efficient. But I'm like, okay, we'll put in a lowball offer. I put in an offer for, I believe it was 250,000 yen. I ended up getting the car for 232,000. So we do the math on that. That's 232,000 divided by, what is that? 155, roughly $1,500 to buy the car. So, okay, that's the next step. So the car itself only cost about $1,500. So, however, of course, there are going to be fees in association with that. So, car price, roughly, and I'm using an approximation here. It really depends, right? The currency value will fluctuate a little bit, and there will be fees associated to translating dollars into yen, but as near as makes no difference, it was roughly $1,500. Okay. Now, there are all the other factors that factor in, right? So there's going to be an auction buying fee, FOB, and transport fees. So that turned out to be roughly 85. That was 130,000 yen. So buying fees. That's 130,000 yen divided by, I think it was 153 when I got it. So that's roughly $850. Okay. So, and this is just on the import side, or this is just on the purchase side. Okay. Now we have sales tax. Sales tax is roughly 10%. So that's going to be another $150. And then we have ocean freight. So, well, we want to ship this, right? We got to ship it from Japan to Hawaii. This is the only time where it actually benefits in terms of costs to live in Hawaii because it doesn't have to go quite as far. So, shipping was $235,000 yen. In other words, it actually cost more for me to ship the car from Japan to Hawaii than it did for me to buy the car in and of itself. So that's going to be, that was $235,000. So that's roughly another $1,500. Okay. One last cost, service. So I could have just said, not send it over the way it is. But I said, all right, we did an inspection. We know there's an oil leak. We know there's a few other things that would be better to handle in Japan than it would be for me to DIY it here. The reason being that, okay, yes, I could DIY it here, which means my labor costs wouldn't be there, but I would have to import all the new parts. For instance, if I wanted new brake lines, I'd have to import those brake lines from Japan, which would be expensive. It made more sense for me to pay someone parts and labor in Japan. First off, that's going to be a Japanese mechanic with Japanese parts who can fix the Japanese car or improve it, right? So made a lot more sense to do that in terms of time efficiency and cost efficiency. The only thing they weren't able to fix, which made me sad, was the sunroof. I'm going to try and work on that at some point here, but it's not a critical mechanical item, right? If the sunroof doesn't work, I can still pop open the front sunroof. It's just the big mid sunroof that doesn't work. Not really the end of the world. I'm going to talk to a couple K-Van dealers here today if I have the time. So, service was $215,000, which is roughly $1,400. So the total here okay? The total before it arrived in Hawaii, that's 3,000, 4,000. Wait a minute, I did the math wrong on this. Oh, right, the deposit factored into the car price. So okay, so that's going to be it was roughly, let me just do the math real quick right here. I actually have the exact number. These are estimates, right? So we're gonna go, everything kit and caboodle was, see here, that is 49.33, 49.43, 5,000. $400 $99.63. There you go. Okay. So the total exact amount that we are going to have here is going to come down to this. So this is not the total costs. This is just before arrival, okay? So we're going to go ahead and underline that. Before arrival. So I had paid $5,500 for this car, okay, before it left the dock in Japan. So let's keep this number in mind, $54.99.32. We're going to just erase this. So now we have to do all the stuff on the Hawaii side. Well, what's that going to entail? You got to pay an import broker. The import broker, right, is going to be the one who gets all the forms for registration, handles the vehicle at the dock, and puts it on a parking lot so you can go and get it. Frankly, it's a racket. It is very, very overpriced for what they're actually doing. I actually have the breakdown right here, and I can run through the actual fees. I'm going to give you all the total amount, but really it's very much a union racket. This is one where you know, it's, well, we're the Port of Honolulu. Where else are you going to import it? You're going to pay whatever we say you're going to pay. So this is $235 for the consumption entry fee, $35 for messenger service, $23.80 for state excise tax, $40 for the single entry bond. You would have thought consumption entry would have solved that. $35 for the EPA form, which is silly because I had to fill out the form. In other words, I'm having to pay to fill out forms to give to them. $35 for the NHTSA form. $95 for the importer security filing. Another $30 for the administration fee. You can see how this is a racket, right? And then customs duty and fees, another $128.79. The stevedores who are the people who actually handle the car, would charge you an additional $150 a day if you didn't immediately pick it up within the first 3 days it is on the island. Rather, the first 3 business days. Howdy, JJ. So the total for this, ridiculousness, frankly. But again, there's not really much you can do. Unless you want to try doing this without an import broker, and then you're going to be calling a shit ton of agencies. Like, you're going to have to call the port, you're going to have to call the stevedores, you're going to have to do all the forms yourself, and they're not going to listen to you because they know you're just trying to cheat the system. It's a racket, but it's a racket you have to pay. Well, you're looking great. I appreciate that. Down to 211.5 pounds as of this morning, thanks to my go-to staple for pre-show cuts. That is a beetroot, pineapple, and carrot smoothie. You shit like a fucking madhouse because of all the fiber, but it clears out your system, and because of all the vitamin A, your skin looks fantastic. But your shit will be blood red for a while. Don't get scared about that. Anyway, so those are the annoying costs of the import broker. Next, we have registration. We also have inspection. Here in Hawaii, the way you do this is unbelievably stupid, okay? Speaking of rackets, nothing will turn you into a libertarian faster than dealing with any state's DMV. I will grant the Hawaii DMV is better than South Carolina's DMV. That is an unbelievably low bar to clear, okay? At least they don't get a day off for Confederate Memorial Day here. And yes, I did say Confederate Memorial Day. That's what South Carolina is. Everybody just assumes it was Alabama or Mississippi that started the Civil War. No, it was South Carolina. Anywho, so the first thing you have to do, you go and get your car off of the dock. Great, you have your car. Then you go over to the import broker and you pay the import broker. Okay, job done. Well, you now have a car with no license plates on it and no registration. So if you get pulled over by a cop, you're going to have some explaining to do. Now, if you've done everything properly, you'll have all the paperwork, so the cop should let you go, but you really want to get this done as fast as possible. Unfortunately, all the steps you have to take are very difficult to pull off in one day. I managed to do it because of, frankly, a little bit of luck, but I did do it. The first thing you have to do is go to an inspector. In this state, there are state licensed vehicle inspectors. This is just a basic safety inspection. Can't DM you anymore. Did you not see the rules announcement on that? If you have something private you want to DM me, by all means, let me know. If you want to just send me anything privately, askbullmuscle@gmail.com. That's what that email address is for. Anyway, so first thing you got to do, inspection. That's going to be it's $30 to get the car inspected. You might have to wait a whole day just to get your car through an inspection. Because of the way inspections are here, sometimes a lot of the shops get very crowded very quickly. I got lucky, I managed to get in. The guy was a former Marine, and boy, he was very short. It was very, very unpleasant to deal with, but he was very efficient. He was very much a no bullshit kind of person. So, the first thing you do is you get your inspection done, and he's going to fail you. In this state, you will fail an inspection because you don't have a registration. But if you go and try to register it first, you won't get anywhere because you have to go get it inspected. So you have to fail the inspection first, then go to the DMV, then go back to the inspection. Okay, so as silly as that is, it gets worse. So I went and did that, okay? Got the failed inspection, all that. You know, the only thing, and what you want is for him to say inspection failed due to lack of registration. You don't want inspection failed due to an actual mechanical problem. That's what I got. So yay, great, good, we're done. Now, beyond that, then you go to the DMV. By this point, you should have a lot of different forms, the import security filing, the original document for the bill of sale in Japanese, the translated one in English, and you better have the one in English because if you have just the one in Japanese, they're gonna say, we don't know what the fuck this is, go translate it, okay? So then you go. They're gonna say, okay, you have every form. Oh, wait, you don't have one for motor vehicle control because you're importing a K-van. A K-van does not have a conventional 17-digit vehicle identification number, or VIN, the same way, I don't know, a Toyota Corolla sold in the United States might be. What this means is you have to go to motor vehicle control to get that form. Motor vehicle control in the state of Hawaii has these hours. You will note that that says 7:45 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. In other words, you are given 2.25 hour window here. Think about how insane that is for a moment. So you have to go to the DMV after failing the inspection because you can't get registered. They're going to tell you, no, you got to go to motor vehicle control. You're going to go there. You're going to go and talk to the VIN inspection guy. And then you have to pay, guess what? Another fee. Oh, wait. I totally missed a step. You have to go, before you go to the inspection, you have to find a scale and weigh in your vehicle. Because if you don't have a weight vehicle form, the DMV is going to turn you away. So those things together, that's going to be, the scale will cost you about $40 plus tax, and then the inspection will cost you $30. So that's going to be 72, 78. So you got all that done. Great. Okay. Then you got to go get the vehicle administration fee done. And I believe I have the receipt for that, because you have to pay to do that as well. This is all a fucking racket. Scale, Kapalama Hale. I'm going to have to check. I thought I had that somewhere. Let me check my forms real quick on this. I know it cost me something, but I don't remember. Let me check my account statements, actually, because I can't find it. This is how wild it gets. You go and you pay to go and get the vehicle registration form. Let's see here. See if I can find it in here before I go down the credit card route. No, that's not it. Although we will want that to explain the fees you pay for registration. It's all a racket, basically, is where I'm going with this. It's annoying, but you don't have a choice. Basically it's a monopoly. You're screwed no matter what you do. Let's see if I got the import fee. No, that's the scale. That's the importer. Nope. Okay, I don't have it in here. Let's see, Toledo scale, Cyril Automotive. See if it's in here. Nope. All right, I don't have it in here. I will check one other card. It's wild the amount of shit you have to do to get this to work, but it is worth it. I don't want to spoiler it. We'll come out with the number in a bit, but it does actually pay off. Let me see if I can find that extra number. Let me see if I can find that extra charge, because that's okay. So you have to go to the, I think it was like $20 or something like that I had to pay. I forget exactly what. Let me see if it pops up on here. Car care. No, that's not it. I think it was roughly $20. It wasn't a lot. Either way, you have to go to Motor Vehicle Control and go get that done for a VIN inspection. You got to call in to get an appointment. Then you got to hope like hell you can get back to the DMV to go and get your registration done. You give them all the papers, and then you get the joyous fees associated with registering your car. So that's going to be, to start, the motor vehicle registration fee, the plate fee, there's a fee based on weight in Hawaii. There is, I had something that broke it down that actually said exactly how much it was. Let's see if I can find it. Maybe it's on the title. No. I had the receipt, but then they took that copy of the receipt that actually explained it back. Either way, there's a shit ton of other really bullshit fees, including, again, like a fee for the plate on the metal. But it came out to me to be $259.46. Oh, and they charge you for parking. So that's it was just $1.50, but it's the point. So that was $260.99. So then the inspection and the scale, $72.78. And that is, I believe, the total. So we just need to do the math real quick. Plus, no, that's not what we wanted. 299.32 plus 657, 9.59 plus 260.99 plus 72.78 is give or take about $6,500. Okay. So the question now is, okay, so $6,500. That is roughly, give or take, about $3,500 cheaper than the cheapest K-van you could find from a dealership here. Not to mention, you're still gonna have to do all that registration bullshit with the K-van here. So, let's go ahead and say, the difference in cost is going to be, if it's $3,500, but you're going to have to do the same registration, the same inspection, it'll be about $4,000. There are going to be a few more fees because you paid more, so you're going to pay more in tax. So that is going to be, we'll say about $4,000. Now, the amount of hours I spent doing all of this is the next part. So I would say getting everything done on the Japanese side, probably 2 hours just to get the initial research done. Now I would say that was fun, but still, let's call it work. Another 2 hours to sift through auctions and set things up with the exporter. So that's 4 hours. Then another, let's say, hour to get all the maintenance handled on that end. So we're up to 5 hours before it exports. Then you got to deal with the import side. Calling the import broker, that was at least 3 hours of work over the course of several weeks. So now we're up to 8 hours, okay? And these are all conservative estimates. I probably actually spent less time doing it, but I'd rather be conservative here, give you a worst case scenario. Okay, so it's 8 hours, all right? Then you've got to deal with the bullshit on the day of. So that's the registration nonsense, the inspection nonsense, the scale nonsense, the vehicle identification number. All that nonsense is probably going to take you 6 to 8 hours. So we're going to say, we'll split the difference at 7. We're going to say roughly 15 hours of work. Cost of dealer van. And we're going to go with the cheapest possible dealer. So we're going to say, let's say the cheapest one I've seen is $99.99, but let's say you lowball them at $9,500 and then you get it. With the fees, it's going to work out to about $10,000. So you're looking at about a $3,500 difference. So $3,500, okay, divided by 15 hours works out to an effective wage of $233 an hour. There you go. Okay, so to recap, cost about $5,500 on the export side. Cost about another $1,000 and a lot more time on the import side. 15 hours total for a delta of about $3,500 in cost between importing it yourself and buying one at a dealership locally gives you an effective wage of $233 an hour. Now, I don't know about you guys, but my time is worth $233 an hour. In other words, I made, or rather saved, and a penny saved is a penny earned, a fuck ton of money doing it this way. Did it take effort? Yes. Did it take time? Yes. Did it take patience? Yes. Did it take not wanting to punch the lady at the DMV for being an absolute twat? Yes. But $233 an hour, people. And this is the kind of creativity I'm talking about when you want to become financially independent. And that's why I did this whole shebang, okay? The reason I did this is to explain to you that if you think outside the box and you're a little bit more creative with how to solve your problems instead of just spending money, you will save a shit ton. And when you save a shit ton, you then invest a shit ton. And when you invest a shit ton, that's how you become independently wealthy. And once you become that, well, frankly, the pathway just gets so much easier from there. All this kind of thinking on a day-to-day level, a week-to-week level, a month-to-month level is why I'll probably be a millionaire in the next maybe 2 to 3 years tops. I'm already pretty close. I'm already financially independent. But the whole idea here is when you DIY some things, right? So that's insourcing instead of outsourcing. And frankly, I probably could have done that with the import broker and brought the costs down a bit more there, but whatever. When you insource all of this, you DIY things, the effective wage you get paid is often far more than you get paid at your own job. And the best part is these savings are always tax-free. I'm going to say that one more time. Savings are always tax-free. The government can't tax you based on the amount of money you save. The government can, will, and does tax you on every amount you earn. And if you live in one of those socialist hellscapes, like poor Nick in chat here, he lives in Soviet Kanukistan, you're going to be taxed at 30 to 40 to 50%. In other words, you have to work twice as hard just to get your nominal wage. Now, thankfully in the United States, I don't have that problem as bad. Even in a relatively high tax state, although that's changing over the next few years, I'm going to see a maximum tax rate of roughly 20%, give or take. But still, right? If I wanted to get $233 an hour from the private sector, I would need to be making closer to $300 an hour before tax. That's the benefit of savings. Savings is tax-free. It's a huge deal, okay? Savings is incredibly tax efficient. So let's talk a few more things about K-Vans. I'm going to hold this up one more time, okay? I'm going to hold it up real close to the camera. There we go. And I want y'all to take a picture. Give y'all just a few minutes to observe it. Hopefully one of y'all takes a picture and posts this in my Discord. That way you can understand how this works. Great. Okay. Oh, a couple other side notes. If you do want to import your own K-Van and you'd like someone to help you out with that, I know a guy. Let me hook you up with him. He's looking for business. So if you want to import a K-Van from Japan, I can help you. So let's see. Nick Bodo says, Jesus. JJ says, yo, I can't DM you anymore. AskBullMuscle@gmail.com for that, or just talk to me in the Discord server. I will say they're nifty little buggers as they save you so much money driving on an American highway, and one is scary. Well, this is now where the next part of the experiment comes up. How much money do you save operating a K-Van than you would a conventional used American car? Now, right off the get-go, the secondhand car market in Hawaii sucks because, right, all the first-hand cars have to be imported by boat. Thanks to the Jones Act, that's expensive. That trickles down to the secondhand market, because in the same way, shipping a used car is also expensive. That's one of the problems of living out in the middle of nowhere and having a dumb protectionist shipping policy. Moving on from that, roughly, you really can't find particularly reliable vehicles unless you want to go absolute bottom of the barrel basement cars for under 7 or 8K out here. So at $6,500, I think my car will be more reliable than almost anything else I could pick up. There are a couple W-era Corollas out there that would maybe get the job done slightly more reliably, but they're going to be beat to hell. They're probably going to have close to 200,000 miles on them. And while it's a Corolla, it'll go a whole lot further than that. You will have to treat it with some amount of mechanical sympathy like you would a K-Van. My K-Van has about 114,000 kilometers on it, which is about 70,000 miles, I believe. Let me actually do the math on that. Times 0.62, I believe, is the conversion. Yeah, about 71,000 miles on it. So 71,000 miles over 31 years, that's not bad at all. I'm going to probably put roughly 4,000 miles on it per year. Why so few? The average American drives almost 15,000 miles a year. The first part is, well, duh. There's only so many places you can drive on a small island. I live on Oahu, and Oahu is about the size of Long Island in New York. So you really can't drive unless you're doing a crazy commute, which y'all have heard my rants on commuting before. I'm still riding my bicycle to work. In fact, I actually got hit by a car yesterday. Do you think that's going to change my commuting to work on a bicycle? Fuck no, it's not. It wasn't a huge deal. It was at very low speed, so I'm okay. Some blonde ditz coming out of a parking lot from her high school in mommy's VW Tiguan, I think it was. I think it was the smaller VW SUV. Wasn't an Atlas. I think it was a Tiguan. She hesitated right before going out, and I was coming up the sidewalk because there was no bike lane on this street, and it's a fairly fast street, and it was going uphill, so I'm not going to be able to keep speed with cars. And my golden rule for cycling in Hawaii, if you want to do it safely, is do what you can to avoid pissing off drivers. If you get out of the way of drivers and segregate yourself as much as possible from traffic, you're gonna do better. Now, if you can keep up with them at speed, no problem. But if you know you're gonna have to go uphill, consider using the sidewalk. It's legal to use the sidewalk below 10 miles an hour here, which is the speed I generally go if I'm going on a sidewalk. I'll not use any power on my electric bike. I'll use the pedestrian, the bell if there are pedestrians in the way. Sometimes they're listening to music though, and so I may have to, hop a curb or go off into the grass, whatever. It's still safer. Safety first. But this girl pulled out of the parking lot into the part where you're about to get on the street. She hesitated twice, making me think, oh, okay, she saw me. I couldn't tell because her windows were so tinted and I was wearing sunglasses because it's Hawaii, it's bright. I couldn't tell that she hadn't looked at me, and I guess she hadn't. So I start moving. She already blocked the sidewalk. I was going to go around her in the front, and at about midpoint, right at the front end of the vehicle, she started to accelerate and caught my bike and my leg beneath her. I'm really thankful she wasn't in a big, stupid lifted truck, and I will continue to rant against big, stupid lifted trucks until the end of time. I fucking hate them because had that been a big, stupid lifted truck, I would have gone to the hospital, or even worse. I was unscathed. My bike was mostly unscathed. The mirror broke. I actually have it right here. I'll probably go reattach it with some Gorilla Glue. It's just a plastic piece, so it's not the end of the world. But all in all, could have been a lot worse. It wasn't, thank God. But, if you're a driver out there, okay, look both ways. There are pedestrians or cyclists coming both ways. You do not have the right to treat them like they're subhuman. And people here do that a lot. So definitely, if you are a driver, consider taking a defensive driving class. I probably will. It lowers your insurance premiums. That's going to be one other item I want to talk about is the running costs of the K-Van versus other vehicles. Parts are going to be expensive. So if something breaks, I'm going to have to be ready to both spend time and money waiting to fix it because I'm going to have to import all the parts from Japan, which takes weeks. But the nice thing about these K vehicles, a small engine like that is not going to use a ton of fuel, at least at first, or at least in the long run. I have some tuning to do to make it more efficient. Right now I've only been getting like 20 miles to the gallon with it. It'll go up. A lot of that was idling, especially like when I just got the vehicle, just trying to figure out, okay, this is how it works. A lot of inefficient throttle inputs. I'm still trying to learn how the throttle works and how the transmission, because it's a funky mid-90s CVT. It's not one of the smarter CVTs that's a little bit better with throttle input. So you have to be a little bit more clever about how you use the throttle in this car. And you can't just go full throttle all the time. It's going to rag out the engine. I just got the engine over here, so I want to treat it with some mechanical sympathy, but that means it is slow. You have to think about where you accelerate, how you change lanes. Will my car go on the highways? Here, yes. The speed limits only hit 60 on the H3. Everywhere else, they're between 45 and 55. My K-Van it's running at a fairly high RPM, but it'll do 50 miles an hour, which is 80 kph. 60, it's really pushing it. It doesn't like to go 60. It'll do it, but it would prefer to stay really below about 55. The nice thing is here on these roads with the traffic, you're not really going that fast most of the time anyway. And I'm really just using this as a beach cruiser. So that's the good news. I did a little insurance shopping. I ended up going with USA, and they have this app called Safe Pilot, which allows you to, you get a driver's score. And I was very tempted, and I even signed up for it, but I think I'm going to turn away from using it because it requires you to have the app on at all times and your location on at all times. In other words, when I go cycling somewhere, it's going to assume I'm driving, and my behavior as a cyclist very different from my behavior as a driver. I don't want to have to deal with that. So I'm going to actually call USAA and figure that out on Monday. I'm going to see what I could save by getting a defensive driving course instead. I'd rather do that just because, you do it once, you don't have to worry about it for 3 years. But I would rather do that than deal with, that's a level of privacy invasion I don't want. And frankly, at 4,000 miles, I'm only paying like $30 a month for insurance anyway. So, it might save me $5 a month. My privacy is worth, I think, a little more than that at this point. I'm going to start paying for a VPN one of these days pretty soon, to get my privacy a little bit more in order. I think that's wise. So that's really the gist of it. I hope y'all found this informative. If you have questions about importing a K-Van or personal finance advice, tips to save money and therefore become financially independent and therefore no longer need a job, you can write to me at askbullmuscle@gmail.com. You can also ask me for diet plans, fitness plans, lifestyle advice, dating advice, you name it, I got it. Right? How many successful runway model, nuclear engineer, financially independent people with a six-pack do you know? The answer is one. It's me. So take that for what you will. How am I feeling though? I'm feeling all right, a little bit sore, but I had also hit squat day yesterday, so I can't tell if that was the lift or the accident. All in all, I'm okay. I don't see, I got kind of hit right around the hip, so it's a little sore, but there's no bruising. It's all pretty normal, so we're pretty good there. Anyway, I will say, the reason my costs of operation for this vehicle will be very low, though, is because I continue to ride a bicycle. Riding a bike is the single best thing you can do, apart from not getting a stupid degree in college and not getting married before you're ready, to preserve your life's finances. Strongly recommended. Driving on an American highway M1 is scary. So, oh so tasty Lord KC, I will grant you that. A K-Van is not a safe vehicle. It is basically a bread box, and your knees are basically the crumple zones. At 6'3", I barely fit in the thing. However, safety is an expensive illusion. The safest thing you can do to avoid an automobile accident is drive less, right? Statistically speaking, the more you drive, the more likely you are to get in an accident. That's just pretty, I think that's pretty obvious. You're driving a bunch of miles, you're spending more time in the car, and therefore, let's say every time you go out for a drive, you have a 1 in 1 million chance of getting in an accident. Well, you're driving a lot more. What's that going to mean? So if I'm only driving 4,000 miles a year, and frankly, I think that's going to be on the high end, I'm basically just using this car for two features. One, I'll admit, while I can and have done plenty of Costco runs on my bike, it's a lot more convenient to do so in a car. I'll grant that much. Now, if you were just using it for that, frankly, you'd be better off renting a car every so often, or using Zipcar or Uber or something like that. However, that's not the real purpose. The real purpose is for me to go grab my mates and all my friends here and go to the beach. I can fit my board in that thing. Oh, my board's over off screen. Fit my board, my fins, all the other fun beach stuff I like, maybe a cooler with some cold drinks, and I can go party with my friends at the beach. it's a fun vehicle. It's a novelty, not a novelty vehicle, but it's a luxury. That's the other thing I want to go ahead and reinstate. I have proved over the last 8 months of living here that you do not need a car to live successfully in a high cost of living area. You need to be creative about your expenses. Now, for me, because my expenses are relatively low and my salary is relatively high, I could afford doing this. This was, again, it's a luxury. This is a luxury purchase. My van is a luxury vehicle to me. You need to approach owning a car as an expensive luxury. And the less you drive, the cheaper it is. Or rather, the less expensive it is. I will have more updates for you in terms of per mile costs, per month costs, and everything else as the year goes along. But that's going to be it for this video. I'm going to take a short break, get a little bit more food in my system because I am quite hungry. And then I will probably do a second stream. It's going to be a Pokemon stream, and we're going to talk about how I'm doing at the end of the first month of the year. So yearly goals, right? You remember those? We did those at the end of the year, the beginning of the end of last year, the beginning of this year. Yeah, those are still a thing. If you started slacking off, guess what? You're already down 7-0 then, to use a football metaphor. We'll see how I'm doing, and we'll go from there. We'll do that while we play a little bit of Pokemon. So that's going to be it for me for this one. Hope y'all enjoyed. I know this is a slightly longer video in terms of talking, but there's a lot to go over here. If one of y'all wants to break this up into components and categories, I would really love it if my audience started doing that. I think there's a way for viewers to do that. Please be my guest on that one. Anyway, that is going to be it for me today, or that is going to be it for me for now. I'll be back in probably online in maybe 30 minutes or so, give or take. Until then, make good decisions. Those good decisions form your actions. Those actions form your habits. Those habits form your values. Those values form an ethos can be the guide start through the rough waters of life. Much love, y'all. Come in for the hug. Shoots. I'll see y'all in